My name is Harper Lane. I am 36 years old, and I work in event compliance for a nonprofit arts foundation in Columbus, Ohio. My job is simple in theory. I read contracts before people can pretend they did not understand them. That Saturday morning, I walked into my sister Avery's engagement party expecting to be seated near the back, maybe ignored, maybe handed a small insult wrapped in family language. I did not expect the woman at the check-in table to hand me a badge that said childcare volunteer. I did not expect my name to be missing from the guest list, and I definitely did not expect to discover, less than an hour later, that my mother had used my professional affiliation to get the venue discount, then placed me in the children's room like hired help. Before I tell you what happened when the host opened the contract file, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if your family has ever called you responsible, just so they could use you, comment the word responsible. I want to know how many people understand what that word can cost. The first thing I noticed was the sign beside the glass doors of Brookmere Hall. It was printed on cream paper in a gold frame. Welcome to Avery and Daniel's engagement celebration. Family, friends, and loved ones, I stood there reading those words while my reflection floated over them. Family, friends, loved ones. Then the young woman at the table smiled and asked for my name. Harper Lane, I said. Her smile stayed polite, but her eyes changed when she looked down at the seating chart. She checked one page, then another. Oh, she said softly, you're not in the ballroom. I looked past her through the open doors. I could see round tables covered in blush linens, gold flatware, tall vases full of roses, and my parents seated near the front beside my sister's future in-laws. There was an empty chair at their table, but my name was not on it. My mother had given that seat to one of Avery's college friends. The woman at the table pointed down the hallway. You're assigned to the children's activity room. Your family said you were coordinating childcare. I looked at the badge in her hand. Childcare volunteer, Harper Lane. My name was printed under those words in clean black ink, like the role had always belonged to me. I did not raise my voice. I did not walk into the ballroom and demand a seat in front of 75 people. I took the badge and said, "Where is the children's room?" I grew up in a family where usefulness was treated like love, but only when I was the useful one. Avery was 3 years younger than me, and from childhood she was described as delicate in the way other families describe antiques. If Avery cried, the room rearranged itself. If Avery was late, traffic was cruel. If Avery forgot something, she had a lot on her mind. If Avery hurt someone, she was overwhelmed. If I complained, I was selfish. My mother, Denise Lane, used to say, "Harper, you're just better with responsibility." It sounded like praise when I was 9. By the time I was grown, I understood it was permission. Permission for everyone else to hand me what they did not want to carry. By 25, I had moved into my own apartment, started my job at the Arts Foundation, and built a life with clean furniture, labeled folders, and a front door nobody in my family had a key to. I thought distance would loosen the leash. It did not. It only made the requests travel by phone. Avery needs help moving. Avery is nervous about her job interview. Avery's rent is short this month, but she is embarrassed to ask. Avery broke up with someone and should not be alone this weekend. I said yes more often than I should have, because old training is hard to recognize when it still sounds like love. After that night, I started saying no. Not dramatically, just no, not this weekend. I can't cover that. You'll need to ask someone else. The first few times, my mother acted like she had misheard me. Then she started calling me distant. Avery said I had changed. My father said my mother was crying more. I said I was sorry to hear that and did not offer to fix it. For nearly a year, my family adjusted badly to the new version of me. Then Avery got engaged to Daniel Whitmore. Daniel was kind, from what I could tell. He worked in commercial insurance, wore simple glasses, and seemed permanently surprised by the size of my family's emotions. The engagement celebration was my mother's idea. Not dinner at someone's house, not a backyard party. A rented hall, catered brunch, floral backdrop, photographer, champagne, formal invitations, and a string trio. "It's not a wedding," Avery told me over the phone. "It's just a classy little family thing." I had seen the venue name on the invitation and almost laughed. Brookmere Hall. I knew Brookmere Hall very well. My family did not know I knew Brookmere. They only knew it looked expensive online. 3 weeks before the party, my mother called while I was making soup and reviewing a vendor renewal on my laptop. "Harper," she said, warm and bright. I need to ask you something small. I turned the stove down. What is it? Some guests are bringing children. We thought maybe you could keep an eye on the activity room. No, I said, silence, then a soft laugh. You don't even know what I was going to ask. You were going to ask me to watch children. Not watch them exactly, just help a little. No, her voice cooled. Harper, it's family. It is Avery's party. And you are Avery's sister. Then I should be a guest, my mother sighed. Nobody is saying you are not a guest. We just thought since you are naturally organized and children like you. No, I repeated. Maybe invite people who want to help. She hung up, wounded but controlled. A week later, Avery texted me a photo of the floral backdrop and wrote, "Can't wait to see you there. Mom said you might help with the kids for just a little bit, but no pressure." There it was. No pressure, after the pressure had already been placed in the room. I replied, looking forward to attending as a guest. She sent a thumbs-up emoji. My mistake was believing a thumbs-up from Avery meant agreement. The morning of the party, I took time getting ready because I wanted to walk in as a person, not a function. I wore a plum blazer over a cream blouse, dark trousers, small gold earrings, and low heels. My hair was cut in a short copper-brown bob that still felt new enough for me to notice every time I passed a mirror. I looked professional, calm, and like someone who had chosen herself on purpose. I walked inside, saw the sign, the check-in table, and then the badge. "If this is wrong, I can call the event host," the young woman said. I almost said yes. Then I saw my mother through the open ballroom doors, leaning toward Avery's future mother-in-law with a bright smile. I saw Avery near the floral backdrop, laughing while the photographer adjusted her hair. I saw my father at the bar with Daniel, looking relieved to have another man to talk to. If I corrected it quietly at the front desk, my mother would call it a misunderstanding. Avery would say she had no idea. My father would ask why I could not just help for 30 minutes. The story would bend around them as it always had, so I took the badge. The children's room was at the end of a hallway near the kitchen, decorated with paper tablecloths, crayons, juice boxes, and 2 trays of chicken tenders. There were 9 children inside when I arrived, ranging from 3 to 10. A teenage staff assistant stood near the door, overwhelmed. "Are you Harper?" she asked. "Yes." Relief crossed her face. "Great, they said you were in charge." Of course they did. On the table was a clipboard, child activity room sign-in. At the top, under responsible family adult, my name had been written in my mother's handwriting. Harper Lane. Under it were instructions. Keep children in room during speeches. No children in ballroom until cake. Ask Harper for allergy concerns. Harper will coordinate parent pickup. My body went very still. It is one thing to be pushed into a role verbally. It is another thing to see your name written into a plan you refused. I photographed the clipboard, then the badge, then the room. The staff assistant's name was Maya. She told me my mother, the lady in the rose dress, said I did this all the time. "She said you were better with responsibility," Maya added. I helped settle the kids because they were children and none of this was their fault. But I did not disappear into the role. I documented everything. At 11:32, my mother appeared at the doorway wearing a rose-colored dress and the satisfied expression of someone whose plan had worked. "Harper," she said warmly. "There you are. Here I am." Her eyes flicked to the badge. "Don't look like that." "Like what?" "Like a martyr. You're helping. It's kind." "I told you no." She stepped inside and lowered her voice. "This is not the time." "It never is." Her smile tightened. "Avery is already nervous. Daniel's family is very traditional. We need everything to go smoothly. So you put me in a separate room with the children. Only during the first part and maybe speeches and lunch we'll see how things go. Is there a seat for me in the ballroom?" She inhaled like I had asked something rude. "Tables are tight." "That is not an answer. Your cousin Elise came in from Dayton last minute. Avery wanted her close. We knew you would understand." I did understand. That was the problem. I understood perfectly. "Who wrote my name on the activity room form?" Her face changed for half a second. Then she recovered. "I did. They needed a responsible adult listed. You work with events. You know these things. You listed me after I said no. I listed you because I knew once you were here, you would do the right thing." The honest cruelty of that sentence almost took my breath. In her mind, the right thing was whatever kept Avery comfortable and kept me useful. Before I could answer, a man in a dark suit appeared behind her in the hallway. He was around 50, with silver hair, a tablet in one hand, and the focused expression of someone managing 3 problems while listening to a 4th. I recognized him immediately. His name was Malcolm Pierce, the event director at Brookmere Hall. I had worked with him during compliance reviews, though only briefly in person. He looked at my mother, then at me, then at the badge clipped to my blazer. "Ms. Lane," he asked. My mother brightened. "Yes, this is my daughter Harper. She's helping with the children." Malcolm's eyes stayed on me. "Harper Lane from the Whitcomb Arts Foundation." My mother's smile froze at the edges. I unclipped the badge and held it in my hand. "Yes." Malcolm looked down at his tablet. "I apologize. I've been looking for you in the ballroom. You're listed as the sponsor contact on the event file." The hallway went quiet. My mother gave a small laugh. "Oh no, she's just family." I handled most of the planning. Malcolm's professional smile did not move. "Yes, Mrs. Lane, I have your emails, but the community partner rate was approved under Ms. Lane's sponsor affiliation, and the final event compliance acknowledgement requires her confirmation." My mother stared at him. "I'm sorry." He turned the tablet slightly. "The contract lists Harper Lane as the responsible sponsor contact. There's also a note from you stating she approved the use of her foundation affiliation for the family rate and would be present to oversee compliance." I looked at my mother. "You told them I approved this." Her mouth opened, then closed. "Harper, this is not what it sounds like." Malcolm's expression sharpened with careful neutrality. "Would you prefer we step into my office?" "No," my mother said quickly. "There's no need. Harper approves. She's here." I looked at Malcolm. "I would like to see the file." My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back before she touched me. "Harper, do not embarrass your sister. I'm looking at a contract with my name on it. Because you are part of this family. Then why am I wearing a childcare badge?" Malcolm glanced at the badge in my hand. "My office is this way," he said. My mother tried to follow us, but I stopped and turned. "No, I'm your mother, and this is a contract with my name on it," she whispered. "Do not do this." I looked through the open ballroom doors. Avery was posing with Daniel's mother. A server carried mimosas past a table where my empty chair did not exist. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm reading." Malcolm's office was small and neat, tucked behind the catering corridor. He offered me a chair and left the door partly open. "Before I show you anything," he said, "I need to clarify whether you personally authorized your name, employer affiliation, or sponsor status to be used for this private event." "I did not." He nodded once. "Understood." He printed the relevant pages: event rental agreement, community partner rate addendum, sponsor affiliation note, responsible event contact, and child activity room compliance note. My name appeared on 3 pages. Harper Lane, Whitcomb Arts Foundation. Sponsor contact. On 1 page, there was a typed statement. "My daughter Harper works directly with venue compliance and has approved this arrangement. She will be present during the event and can answer any sponsor-related questions." Under it was my mother's email address, not mine. Attached was an old email signature of mine from a volunteer fundraiser 2 years earlier, forwarded by my mother as if it proved authorization. It did not. But I could see how a busy rental office, receiving a family event request through an existing community partner connection, might have accepted it pending final confirmation at the event. "Has any discount already been applied?" I asked. Malcolm looked relieved to be speaking in practical terms. "Yes, the standard rental fee was reduced by 40% under the community partner rate. The damage deposit was also reduced. And the final balance, paid by Mrs. Lane yesterday." That surprised me. "In full." "Yes, but if the sponsor affiliation is invalid, the standard rate applies. There would be an additional balance due." "How much?" $4,800. There it was. The cost of using my name had finally become visible. "And the childcare room." Malcolm's mouth tightened. "Brookmere does not provide childcare. Families may use that room for activities only if parents remain responsible and supervision is arranged independently. Your mother's note said you were the designated family supervisor." "I refused that role before today," he nodded. "Then we have a compliance problem." "I don't want the event shut down," I said. "It's not for them. It's for the guests and the children. What would you like to do?" That question hit me harder than I expected. What would you like to do? Not what does Avery need, not can you just help for a little while. What would you like to do? I looked at the pages on the desk. "I want my name removed as sponsor contact. I want the event file corrected in writing. I want a copy of the original email chain and the updated file. I want the activity room changed to parent supervised only, with parents required to sign their own children in and out. and I want my family informed that I am attending as a guest or I am leaving. Malcolm wrote everything down. That is reasonable. No speeches, I added. He almost smiled. I don't give speeches at engagement parties. I clipped the childcare badge onto the top page of the contract and left it on his desk. Then I'm going back as a guest. The children's room was still loud when I returned. Maya was helping a little boy wash marker off his fingers. I told her the room was no longer my responsibility and that Mr. Pierce would send staff instructions. She looked nervous. Am I in trouble? No, I said. You did exactly what you were told. That's the problem. A little girl asked if I was coming back. I crouched down and smiled at her. Your mom is going to come check on you now. Good, she said. She said this was a party. Children notice more than adults think. I walked down the hallway toward the ballroom. The music was soft, the kind of instrumental jazz people choose when they want an event to feel expensive but relaxed. I paused at the entrance and let myself feel the humiliation fully. The badge, the back room, the missing chair, my mother's handwriting, the contract, the lie, the way she had used my professional credibility to make Avery's party prettier, then used my family role to make me disappear. I could have turned around and left. That would have been clean, maybe healthier. But I had spent too much of my life leaving rooms quietly while other people stayed inside and explained me incorrectly. So I walked in. My cousin Elise was sitting in the chair that should have been mine, laughing with Avery's friends. My father saw me first. His eyes moved from my face to my missing badge, then back again. My mother was not at the table. Avery noticed me and frowned, not because she felt guilty, but because I had entered the room at all. She excused herself from Daniel's mother and crossed the floor quickly. Harper, she whispered. What are you doing? Attending. Where are the kids? With their parents soon. Eyes flashed. Are you seriously doing this today? I looked at her engagement ring, at the flowers, at the photographer behind her, at the room full of people who had been told I was helpful enough to use but not important enough to seat. Avery, did you know Mom used my name on the venue contract? Her face went blank in the way people's faces go blank when they are deciding whether ignorance is safer than honesty. What contract? That answer's enough. I didn't handle the venue stuff. Mom did. Did you know I was assigned to the children's room? She looked away, just half a second, but I saw it. It was only supposed to be for a little while. There it was. There is no little while when someone already took away your chair. Her eyes filled with tears, fast and practiced. You always make me feel like a bad person. No, I said. I just stopped helping you feel like a good one. Before she could answer, Malcolm appeared at the side of the ballroom with my mother beside him. My mother's face was pale under her makeup. He spoke quietly to Daniel first, then to Avery. Whatever he said made Daniel's expression change completely. Avery turned toward my mother. Mom! Malcolm gestured toward the side conference room. Daniel followed immediately. His parents followed. Avery went after them, angry now. My father looked at me once before trailing behind. I stayed in the ballroom. That mattered. I did not follow them to explain. I did not argue my case behind a closed door. I had spent too many years stepping into private rooms where my mother could soften facts before anyone else heard them. This time, the paper was already in the room. The photographer moved near the floral wall, pretending not to notice the sudden tension. Guests kept talking in the awkward way people talk when they know something is happening, but do not know whether they are allowed to know. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Parents began drifting toward the children's room after a staff member quietly informed them that Brookmere required direct parent supervision. Mothers and fathers who had assumed someone else was handling their kids suddenly had to get up, sign forms, check allergies, and decide whose turn it was to sit in the activity room. Nobody blamed me because nobody knew it had been me. I did not need credit for removing a burden that should never have been placed on me. At 12:18, Daniel came out of the conference room alone. He looked embarrassed, but not at me, at the situation. He walked across the ballroom and stopped beside me. Harper, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. For what? For not asking more questions. That was better than I expected. Did you know? No, I knew your mother said you helped secure the venue rate. I thought that meant you had offered. I didn't know you were listed as the sponsor contact. I didn't know about the childcare room until just now. I also didn't know you had no seat. I looked toward table 1, where Elise was suddenly very interested in her drink. Now you do, Daniel nodded. My parents are covering the additional balance. Avery and I will pay them back. I almost said Avery would not, but that was not my business. That's between you. Malcolm corrected the file. He said you'll get copies by email. Good. He hesitated. Avery says you could have told her privately. I looked at him. Daniel, I told my mother privately weeks ago that I would not babysit. I told Avery in writing I was attending as a guest. They made a public plan anyway. He looked down. I understand. Do you? I'm starting to. It was not my job to save him from what he was starting to understand. My mother came out next. She moved toward me with her shoulders high and her smile trembling. Harper, she said, can we speak outside? No, her eyes widened. Please. No, her voice dropped. You are humiliating us. I looked around the ballroom. Most guests were still pretending not to watch. I haven't said anything. You went to the event manager. He came to me. You could have fixed this quietly. You could have not used my name. Her mouth tightened. I did what I had to do to make your sister's day special. And what did you do to make sure I was treated like family? She looked genuinely frustrated, as if the question was unfair because it centered me. Harper, you are good at handling things. Avery is not. That is not a reason to hand me her consequences. She needed this. She needed a party discount and free childcare. My mother flinched. Don't make it sound ugly. I didn't make it ugly, I said. I just stopped making it invisible. My father came over then, looking tired in the way that used to make me soften. Harper, he said, your mother made a mistake. No, I said. A mistake is putting the wrong date on a calendar. This was a plan. She was trying to help your sister. By using my professional affiliation without asking, he looked away. She should not have done that. It was the closest thing to honesty he had offered all day. My mother turned on him. Martin. Denise, he said quietly. She's right. The sentence did not repair anything, but it changed the room around my mother. For the first time, she was not surrounded by people bending reality to protect her version of events. Avery came out a few minutes later, mascara smudged under one eye. Daniel stood behind her. Are you happy? She asked. No, you ruined the party. No, I attended the party you invited me to. You made Daniel's parents think we're liars. Your mother sent the emails. You could have just helped with the kids, she snapped. For one day, Harper. There it was, the old math. One day if you ignored the 30 years under it. One little favor if you ignored the pattern that made refusal feel like betrayal. One family event if you ignored the missing chair. Avery, I said, you wore a $4,000 dress to an engagement brunch and let me be put in a back room with chicken tenders and crayons. Don't ask me to pretend this was about one day. Her face crumpled, but I did not move toward her. Daniel touched her arm. She pulled away and walked back toward the conference room. My mother followed her immediately. Of course she did. I sat through the rest of the brunch, not because the food mattered and not because I wanted to watch my family stumble through the event. I stayed because I had been invited, and for once I was going to take up the space my name deserved. The speeches were shorter than planned. Daniel thanked everyone for coming. Avery spoke for less than a minute. My mother did not speak at all. Nobody mentioned family helping family. Nobody asked me to check on the kids. Nobody gave me a task. I left at 2:40. The party was still going, technically. Guests were eating cake. Children had been rotated back to their parents in shifts. Avery was taking photos near the floral backdrop, but her smile was smaller now. My mother saw me pick up my purse and started across the room. I did not speed up. I simply walked toward the exit at the pace of someone who had paid for her own shoes and owed nobody an explanation. She caught me near the front doors. Harper. I turned. She looked older than she had that morning. I never meant for it to become this. What did you mean for it to become? She blinked. What? You used my name on a contract. You wrote me down as childcare. You gave away my seat. What was the good version of this plan? Her eyes filled. I thought you would help. I know. I thought once you were here you would see how much Avery needed everything to go well. I know. Then why couldn't you just do it? That question was the whole history of us. Not why did we ask too much. Not why did we lie. Not why did we erase you. Just why couldn't you keep being who we needed? I looked at my mother for a long moment. Because I needed to know what it felt like to be invited without being used. She cried then, quietly. These tears seemed real. They still did not change anything. You are my daughter, she whispered. Then learn my name without writing a job under it. I pushed the door open and stepped outside. The air was cold, bright, and clean. I sat in my car for a few minutes before driving home, not because I was shaken, but because my body had not yet caught up with the fact that nothing terrible happened when I stopped carrying everyone. The sky did not fall. Avery's party continued. My mother survived embarrassment. My father had to sit with discomfort. Parents watched their own children. A contract got corrected. The world kept going. That evening, Malcolm emailed the file exactly as promised. The original email chain was attached. I read it once. My mother's messages were worse than I expected, but not surprising. Harper works with these venues all the time. Harper said the rate should apply. Harper is difficult to reach during work hours, but I am her mother and can coordinate. Harper will be present and responsible for the family activity room. Harper understands these requirements. Harper, Harper, Harper. My name used like a tool passed around a room I was not allowed to sit in. I forwarded the file to my personal attorney. Not because I wanted a dramatic legal war, but because documentation is a boundary with a memory. My attorney, Camille Price, sent a formal letter to my mother, my father, Avery, and Daniel. It said my name, employer, title, affiliation, email signature, or professional reputation could not be used for any private event, financial request, contract, school form, medical document, or family arrangement without my written consent. My mother called within an hour of receiving it. I let it go to voicemail. My father called once. Avery sent a text. I can't believe you brought a lawyer into this. I replied with the only sentence I had energy for. You brought my name into a contract. She did not answer. I spent that spring doing something that felt almost rebellious. Nothing. I did not rescue anyone. I did not plan anyone's party. I did not review Avery's wedding venue options. I did not answer texts that began with quick question and ended with unpaid labor. I went to work. I cooked dinner. I took a pottery class on Thursday nights and made 3 uneven bowls I loved more than most perfect things I owned. At first, peace felt like laziness. Then it started to feel like proof. 3 months after the engagement party, I received a handwritten note from Ellen Whitmore, Daniel's mother. She thanked me for how I handled myself and wrote one sentence I kept. A person who can remain calm while being misused is not weak, but no one decent should require her to prove it. I placed that note in a folder, not with legal documents, but with personal ones. Reminders. Things I needed to remember when my mother's voice echoed in my head. People think silent revenge means waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate someone back. It does not. Sometimes silent revenge is simpler than that. It is removing your name from the form. It is correcting the contract. It is sitting at the table as a guest because you were invited as a servant. It is letting people discover that your usefulness was never proof they owned you. My family invited me as the babysitter, not a guest. They wrote my name where my consent should have been. They put me in the back room and expected gratitude because the room had snacks and crayons. But paper tells the truth in a way family stories often do not. And that afternoon, when the host read my name on the contract, my mother finally learned the difference between being dependable and being available.